Hi, welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. Well, I think we've got another good show for you. We're going to start off by giving you some video from Crescent Sail Yacht Club. Dave Perry was in town, great Dave Perry, and talked a little bit about match racing rules. Got lots of good comments from those who attended the seminar, said it was one of the better seminars they've attended in recent years. And if you get a chance, take a look at the entire event. I think you'll find that Dave is very personable and does a great job. I found it really interesting, and you can see it right here where Dave shows up in flip-flops. I think it was coming from California, and I'm sure he's being comfortable with his shoes. But when you get into 35 and 36-degree weather in the Midwest, I'm not sure that flip-flops are the best footwear to be around a yacht club. But nevertheless, Dave Perry put on a great show, and we certainly appreciate him coming to the area. We also are going to talk a little bit about the 100th Mills race coming up. And we're going to spend some time with spokesperson Dave Ryan talking about the Mills race, its history, and the participation that the show is going to be a part of that project coming up in June. And I think you'll find it to be interesting and hopefully it's a bit insightful. And then we all go all the way out west. We get a chance to talk to Ryan Seago. He's a Bayview Yacht Club member and a former University of Michigan sailor. And the reason that's important is that the Dave Perry rules meeting was put on by the University of Michigan sailing team, and all the guys involved in that, Billy Vogel, put that together. We had a chance to talk to one of their very successful sailors. Ryan Seago is going to talk to us a little bit about the California Dreamin Classic, which was a four regatta event out on the West Coast in San Diego, Long Beach, Newport, and in San Francisco. And they raced J22s for two of the races, Governor 21. And this weekend they'll be on Cali and 37s in Long Beach. But they won the third leg of the race with some other Dominic Dolcic, who's also a former Crescent guy, was on that boat, and he's currently finishing his degree there at Pomona College. But some local guys did really well. And the reason we're talking about the match racing is, and certainly talking about Bayview, they're talking a little bit about Bayview's race coming up, the Holly Hansen World Series Challenge. And that's going to come the end of May, and we'll have a little bit more information on that. Next week, we're going to kind of delve into a number of the one designs that are going to come this summer. I think that'll be a really fun series of races, and we'll talk about the races from Bayview and Crescent and get involved in those stories. Next week, we're going to get out of Zoom, get out on the water a little bit and boat and kind of go through what we're doing. We'll bring Wally Cross back for next week, and we're going to try and get out of the studio, which has been the mark of the show. We certainly still want the big interviews, but we want to be able to do a little traveling this summer. We hope you enjoy it. So up next is Dave Perry briefly before we jump into a Dave Ryan conversation about the 100th Mill. So stay tuned.
So before we start, we're just going to give a quick rundown of the University of Michigan sailing team and just inform you guys like what we do and what we're all about. So Jack's going to explain that.
So for those of y'all who don't know us, we are founded in 1938. We're an intercollegiate sailing team within the MCSA, so we sail all around the Midwest. We field a dinghy team, a keelboat team, and a single-handed team. Billy here is the reigning Midwest Collegiate Sailing Association single-handed champion, 2 times running. We compete nationally. Last year we qualified for 5 of the 8 national championships, and we competed in 13 states on all 3 coasts last year.
Hey Jack, I'd be curious if there are any UMich sailing team alums in the room.
Yeah, let's see. Are there any alums here?
How about parents?
Parents of alums, I'll take them. Yeah, let's give a hand for them. And yeah, we're coached at practices, but our operations are run entirely by our executive board. Billy and I are the captains, and then the rest of the executive board is there in the back. If we could give them a hand for all the help they did. We want to talk a little bit first about our history. So we have 24 All-Americans in our history, 6 Hall of Fame members, and 2 national championships, as well as way too many conference championships. We have some people here who have won conference and national championships for us.
Hey, Peter!
And one of our alumni is currently racing on the USA CLGP team and works with American Magic on the America's Cup team. And our goals as a team are to grow as sailors, students, and people, to be the preeminent sailing team in the Midwest. I think based on this slide, we're doing a pretty good job of that. And to represent the University of Michigan on the national stage and compete for national championships and in national championships. How we achieve these? Consistent practice and hard work. Everybody, all of our team members work tirelessly. We do spring break training trips, those types of things right there. We have excellent recruiting in both Michigan and on a national level. So if you know any high school sailors in the Michigan area that are interested in sailing at U of M, please let them know to reach out to us. We're constantly looking for new members. Clinics and training trips, like the one today and this weekend with Dave, and the generous financial support of our community and alumni. We really could not do it without you guys supporting us today by coming to this talk, and just in general our donors for helping us out. If you would like to help us out more, we have merch for sale back there. And if you want to help Dave a little bit and learn something about sailing, his books are for sale in the back.
He'll talk more about.
Yeah, he'll talk more about that.
Guaranteed. Good to know capitalism is still alive.
Can't do a talk without asking. And how to contact us if you want to just reach out, learn more about our team. If you know somebody that wants to recruit or support us, there's our email and our website. We can send it out to.
The people at Yacht Club in Southport, Connecticut, developing his love for sailors, or for sailing, sorry. And Blue Jays, Lightning.
I love sailors. I'm married to sailors.
Blue Jays, Lightning.
Out of the mouths of babes.
He was the captain of the dinghy national championship team at Yale. He's a 5-time match racing national champion and 2-time winner of the Congressional Cup. He was second at the 1984 Olympic trials in the Soling. He's a national judge and chairman of the U.S. Sailing Appeals Committee. He has been the rules advisor to several Olympic and America's Cup teams, including the U.S. sailing team in the 2021 Olympic Games. In 2020, Dave received the U.S. Sailing's most prestigious award, the Nathaniel Hershoff Award for outstanding contribution to the sport, and was inducted into the National Sailing Hall of Fame. And lastly, Dave has authored 2 books explaining the rules, which are popular throughout the world. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome for Dave Perry. Yeah, Dave!
So I'm just going to stay here for a second. How many of you have ever been charged of running something? All right. Have you ever had it happen while you're running it? Somebody comes up and goes, you know, it's okay, but it sure be better if you did this. And what do you feel like doing right then? Just smack down. There's only 2 responses. One is, oh, have you run something like this before? Well, not all the time, but, well, then I'm walking away from you. Or the other is, oh, we're having a volunteers meeting next week. Thank you for volunteering to come and help us out. I find the world is increasingly filled with a lot of know-it-alls who do nothing. And I have no time and respect for that. The people I have respect for are the people who have an idea and then they put wheels on it and put it on the road and make it happen. And as far as I'm concerned, you've got 2 very outstanding young citizens right here in Billy and Jack. They've put this together. They've done so much with the help of their board at U of Michigan and Dad, Bill. But let's give a huge round of applause for these guys for getting this. Set my up with the college kids. It's way ahead of you. Don't worry about how you do in college. Just don't get caught. Don't get thrown in jail. How about one designs between 20 and 30 feet? Between 20 and 30 feet. All right. Clear. You want to be crystal clear when you're on a starting line and there's all of us around you. You are crystal clear on what your rights are, what you can and can't do, what the other boat's rights are, what they can and can't do, and how do you position your pig to get the best advantage over the other pigs. And that's what it's all about. You're coming into a gate, you've got choices, you've got 10 or 12 boats, you got about 10 seconds to sort it out. You want to be clear in crowds. And I did college racing, for...
Welcome back. We're talking with David Ryan, who is a spokesperson for the 100th Mills race coming up in the western end of Lake Erie. And the festivities go from June 7th through June 9th. And actually they start on June 5th because there's all kinds of parties which are sold out and there's a variety of things going on. But racing starts about 5 minutes to 5 on Friday, June 7th, and ending up at Put in Bay. And there's 3 different race courses. Well, David, first of all, thanks for taking some time. And we just want to kind of get into some of the logistics of the Mills race. In the shadow, to some extent, of the 100th Bayview to Mackinac race, it's one of the staples certainly in Lake Erie. and you've been with the race as a part of the committee for about 10 years.
Yeah, yep. I think it's been at least 10 years. That's true. The Mills race is actually, I think, the third oldest race in the whole country. The Mackinac race has the cachet of being the longest continuous race. The Mills has had a couple stand downs. There have been world wars. The Coast Guard halted it for a year or so because there was a terrible storm. Then the people just kept sailing back to wherever they came from, so that was interesting. And then, of course, COVID, we had a stand down. So this is the 100th running of the race this year.
You have 3 race courses. You have about a 78-mile race course, about a 60-mile race course, and then about a 26-mile race course. It's a little less, maybe it's a little, I don't want to say it's more of a fun race because I don't think that's fair to the guys who race in it, but it certainly has a very interesting palette of opportunity to race. So it attracts a lot of guys. This year you've got already 110 boats registered. What's the typical number? Right. What's the typical number?
Yeah. By race day, there's typically about 110 or so boats that make it to the starting line. We're talking just before Easter weekend at the end of March, and we already have 110. These guys are coming from Indiana, San Francisco, Florida. They're coming from Sarnia, Kingston, and Toronto in Canada. We've got an entry from Arkansas, as well as our typical Ohio and Michigan sailors. But there are 3 different race courses of various lengths because we get a wide variety of boats. We've had Great Lakes 70s. This year there's Andrews 80, a couple of TP 52s, all the way down to 24 footers. So any boat that wants to compete for the Mills Trophy will race on the long Mills Trophy course. Then we have a President's Course and a Governor's Course that will compete for trophies given by the United States President and the Ohio Governor on various length courses. So the shorter boats will sail a shorter course. Intermediate size boats will sail the intermediate length.
The history of this race is pretty cool. The actual Mills was given by, I want to make sure I got this right. The Toledo Yacht Club was an amalgamation in 1865 of 2 rowing clubs, two rowing clubs that became a sail club. Eventually, the original headquarters burned down, and Governor, or was it Admiral Mills, gave a large sterling silver bowl as part of this race. And then a few years later, President Taft, himself an Ohio guy, got involved with having the president's part of the race. So it has some serious dignitaries that have been involved in the race through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Commodore Merrill Mills was a Detroit industrialist. And at that time, Toledo, being at the mouth of the Maumee River and having that transportation venue into Lake Erie and with access to the East Coast is the place to be. LOF glass on the river, enormous timber resources coming out of the Maumee. That's where all the industrialists wanted to be, and the yacht club was the place to hang out and mingle with all those people. Merrill Mills, being from Detroit, wanted to encourage sailing competition and presented the beautiful cup where you can see the silhouette right behind you. They still have all the silver teacups that go along with it. So it's an actual in-use cup that you'll see on Wednesday, June 5th at the awards ceremony.
David, if you go back through some of these yacht clubs and look at some of the hardware I'm not sure people recognize just how historic some of these, excuse me, some of these awards that are given out. They're unbelievable if you look at them. And you think of what's happened in the last 100 years, from a historical standpoint, just all the things we've gone through from world wars to history it's just pretty spectacular. If you walk through, certainly the Toledo Yacht Club, Detroit Yacht Club, Bayview, locally, if you go to Chicago or the New York Yacht Club. And then if you look at on your website, if you look at the picture of the original boat that won and the boat from last year, hard to believe that 100 years later, the boats look very similar in design. And you just think how brilliant the boat designers were in those days. I think of golf courses that were built by Donald Ross. Toledo has one, certainly Detroit has a couple of them. They're playing golf courses that they didn't have the bulldozers to move the dirt in those days. But if you look at that original boat, it's magnificent to look at it because it's still practical. I mean, it's still, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Oh, well, it is. The Mills race has always been designed as a test of navigation. And I know the Mackinac has a course. I think it harkens back to their original course.
Yep.
Well, the original Mills race course went about 300 miles. It went up to Detroit, over to Buffalo, and then back to Toledo Yacht Club. We thought that even the fastest 80 footers might not make it to the Saturday party if we had asked them to do 300 miles. So we got the 70 plus mile course for the Mills race, traditional course that we've had for the last 8 or 10 years. But even back then, the navigation was important. They did all that pretty easy with the color GPS today. They had maybe semi-incorrect knot meter and the watch on their wrist and a compass to navigate all around at night. And that's, pretty interesting to think about.
Question: why do they run at night? Why they start? Let me ask a better question. Why do they start at 5 o'clock, which essentially ends up being a night race?
Yeah, it's done at night because that's the way it started out, and it is a test of navigation.
Okay.
It's not too difficult to, look downrange at whatever the shoreline might be and sail over there. But it is difficult to choose a course, watch the wind, look for wind shifts at night. 5 o'clock in the evening has been the starting time since Jack Bernard and Tony Knight restarted the race after the Coast Guard stand down for a couple of years. The starting times 5 to 10 years ago used to be on 10-minute increments. U.S. sailing starting protocols and the rest of the world are on 5-minute increments, and we have, complied and coordinated with that. So the starting times now, instead of running till almost 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, it's pretty much from 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock is the last start. A lot of times you'll be able to get to the first turning mark before dark falls. So we always had thought that, on our boat, that was a pretty good marker of success if we could get to our first turning mark in the day.
That's, if you race at night, you think of the sextant and using it as a night race and celestial navigation. Tom Cunliffe, who's a sailing magazine, sort of a rock on tour, is an English guy who's basically given all the credit to celestial navigation since about the early 1970s. You think that working at night would be really cool and sail by the stars, but with all of the electronics we now have on all of our boats, you'd have a hard time getting lost, certainly in the Western Lake Erie or anyplace else. So it's and ending up at Put in Bay, there couldn't be a better place because Mackinac's a great place to finish both the Chicago and the Port Huron and the Bayview race. But Put in Bay is known for its good times and its enjoyment. So that's always a fun place to finish.
Well, it is always very exciting to be able to finish in a different place then you've started. There's a destination to look forward to. There's the camaraderie. Of course, the Frosty Bar, a very famous breakfast spot, and other pizza and Bloody Marys there. Kim Stoiber has been a big sponsor and supporter of the Mills race, and everybody loves to make the way to Frosty's to meet and greet each other in the early morning hours on Saturday.
What's a typical time coming in? I guess it always depends on weather, but generally speaking, Troy Sheehan, who's won a number of races and is involved in the hooligan and also has a number of properties on the island. Trey says you have to get in there and try to make sure that you beat the closing time at the bar at 2 a.m. So I guess guys are trying to get in get in under 6 hours so they can at least have a before they collapse back at the boat.
Trey has one of the faster boats, and he's a multiple Mills race course and Mills race trophy winner.
Yeah.
There just tends to be a phenomenon at that time of the year that the air kind of dies out as the sun rises for a few hours. If you can get in before dawn, you'll probably sail in with some breeze. There have been times where the air dies. A couple of years ago, the Mills fleet made a turn down around Huron, Ohio. The ones that made it past the Huron buoy kept on sailing. Everybody that didn't quite get there yet, which could have been 1,000 yards different, they sat for hours. So what time you get in, that's why we do the race every year. You never know.
What do you like about the race?
Well, the first real sailboat race I ever did, and the reason that I stuck with it was the Mills race. A couple of years out of college, and a guy named Dick Hamilton and his family asked me to sail on their Pearson 26, and I'd not sailed at night before. And we just go out into the lake. He would tell us to tack. We'd sail around for a little while. We'd tack again. And then all of a sudden, he required us to tack one more time. And the red buoy of the Starve Island shoal was right ahead of us. And I couldn't believe it. There just seemed to be no rhyme or reason. And I had to figure out how he did that and how everyone else did it. So it's just that, the middle of the night, being with people that you enjoy, and successfully making it to the finish line is the reason that I like to do it.
The western end, well, most of Lake Erie, certainly the western end of Lake Erie, is a bit shallow. And we know that the weather comes up on that lake. It can come up hard. So it creates some other interesting conditions for racing. And it has its own sort of personality when the wind does blow. So that's also part of getting used to if that race and the wind gets up there a little bit, it also makes the race really interesting.
Yeah, and when the weather comes in from the northeast, there's often as the weather system comes through, it'll clock around. There are a couple people, there are a lot many more of them these days that have experienced that particular weather pattern. They know to get over on the right-hand side of the course, and then as the wind shifts, they'll tack on over. But it's different every single year. Last year just seemed to have beautiful 12 to 15 knot breeze, totally clear sky, just low waves. You just sailed just about as peacefully as you ever could. And then there's years when the guys on the rail would say they got to go downstairs because they're getting hypothermic. And the weather is highly variable. In the Mills race course, I think it goes from about 18 feet. And then once you get out to Sandusky, it's maybe 30 to 40 feet deep. Still not very deep at all by, Great Lakes average depths.
Well, one of the reasons we're talking with you is we're certainly going to publicize the race because I think it's pretty cool, and we're going to, have our normal summer shows. A couple of us are attempting for our first race. I'm a cruiser. I have a submarine downwind and with an O'Day 30. So upwind, it's not so bad, but if I get downwind, I might as well get out and paddle. It's not the greatest of sailboats, but the most comfortable. I have a 15-inch television on my boat. We've made the decision that we're going to do a little bit of a documentary. We're going to cover the Mills race. We're going to do some other things with the Queen's Cup on a Great Lakes 52 and also the Bayfield race. We're going to be involved in that. But we're going to go through the whole premise. And it turns out that there's the three guys that turned 70 in June. In fact, my birthday is June 9th, so it'll be part of the festivities. So we're doing two things. We're racing for the first time. We've had a few beer can races, but for the most part, we're cruisers. And I'm sure if you were a betting man, you would not bet on any of us, at least in my boat. But the idea is to be able to kind of go through a race and go through all of the paperwork and go through all of the requirements and show that online, and more importantly, show it as part of a documentary we want to be able to do. So maybe we inspire some guys that have been in cruisers forever to get off their butts and give it a shot. That's the goal. That's one of the reasons we're having this conversation. And we'll be giving reports right up until June the 7th as part of that deal. We think it'll be fun and hopefully enjoyable. And if there's a potential to make mistakes, we're the group to do it by far. That's the easy part of that deal. And we just want people to see what it entails to make a race, and then the enjoyment that comes from it. And I think that's something that is unique. So we're going to certainly spend some time with you over the next couple of months and have that opportunity. And we're just hoping that it doesn't blow 15 to 20. Otherwise, we'll be sitting on the side of the dock. And the other thing, go ahead.
Well, the Mills is well suited to families and cruisers. There's a lovely party and get together at Toledo Yacht Club on Thursday, June 6th. You talk to your friendly competitors, get tips and ideas. There's even been boats known to attract extra crew from people that are looking for a ride the night before the race. The short course is not that terribly long that anybody shouldn't be able to finish the course. There's an awful lot of families that this might be their only race they do all year long, but they come out with their brothers and sisters and kids and even grandparents and do this race. If you're a cruiser, there is not a requirement to even have a handicap certificate. There's a special cruising category. We welcome any boat that wants to participate, and we'll rate it fairly is the same as any other boat of an O'Day 30, and off you go.
The handicap for us will be the crew and myself. That's our handicap to start with. That's pretty easy to understand. We're going to do, hopefully, we do an annual fundraiser every year for Challenge the Wind, which is part of the Detroit Boat Club. It's an urban junior sailing program. So we're going to have a whole pledge thing for if we get how many miles we get, and we're going to put that out there before we get to the race. If we get 10 miles and you pledge $1, we'll give them $10. If we don't get off the dock, you'll still have to pay them $5. But we're going to use it as a fundraiser to try to make a little bit more money for Challenge the Wind. We think there should be a good cause to go along with this. Our show has been free and we've done nothing. We've never made a profit from this thing since we started 3 years ago. So we're trying to do some fundraising, some altruistic work at the same time, really informative. So if you see the mistakes that we make as part of the crew, or you see the successes, I don't drink, so I won't really have to worry about too much on Put in Bay. The rest of the guys, I'm sure, will have their frosty delights as we get to it. But we thought we'd make this a fun event because this really lends itself to everybody we've talked to about the race, about just how much fun it is. Yes, there's competitive guys. The guys want to win, and there's lots of hardware to be given. But this is a really good experience. We hope that A, supports a charity, B, enlightens some folks if you're watching it, maybe entertain some folks because of the way we're going to go about it. And I think the third thing is just being able to maybe see somebody who's sitting on the couch like we've always been to get off and give racing a chance. And I figure it's one of those bucket list ideas. So we're looking forward to the summer of what we're going to do. And hopefully we can, our goal is to raise $2,500, $2,500 for Challenge the Wind. I don't know if we'll get there. I don't know that if we'll get all the things we're hoping to, but we're going to give it a shot. So David, we're going to spend some time with you, there's a lot of history. We want to be able to get into that over our weekly reports on the Mills race. So we appreciate all of your help and anything you can help us with.
Well, the Mills race would be glad to partner with you for the Challenge the Wind program and help publicize that and get people aware of it and to donate to the project.
We'll hopefully shoot a lot of videos. Some of it I'm sure will end up on the cutting floor. But if you're watching it, when you eventually if you get a chance to watch this, we're taking this seriously. We're not, I know we're joking, but we really want to give a real life experience. If you've never raced before and it's something like the Mills race, you want to give it a bucket list opportunity. This is kind of, we're going to kind of walk you through the premise of how you go through it and look through it and the other kinds of things. I have on a couple of occasions tried to use yacht scoring, and it's not hard, but I noticed that some of the requirements are you have to have an overboard certificate, and I don't even know what an overboard certificate is. We'll find out. That'll be part of the show. If I fall over on my boat, just keep going because you're not going to come back for me. So anyway,
So you need the overboard certificate is something that we instituted several years ago, just to prove that you and your crew are proficient enough to pick something up that is, and if it's a person that has fallen in the water. Ideally, you do this while you're actually sailing, rather than just toss a life jacket over and turn around and pick it up. Should it ever happen to you, it's about 50 times more difficult to pick a person up out of the water than you'd ever think possible. So the overboard certificate is just
it's a safety requirement.
Gives you the incentive to go out and practice that maneuver at least once.
David, and I'm looking forward to have a long conversation with you again on more than once. I'll talk a little bit about the race and its history. And I can't tell you how much I've appreciated your time.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to talking with you again.
I want to thank Dave Perry for spending some time with us last week's show, talking about just a bit of his background and history and how he got involved in racing. And as you can see from some of the video, it was a really good seminar at Crescent Sail Yacht Club. And we also want to thank Dave and all of the guys that are sponsoring the Mills race. We're going to bring you a little bit more information. As you pointed out, we're going to do some stuff with Challenge the Wind, excuse me. We're going to do a little bit with Challenge the Wind and try to raise some money for Harry Jones and the kids down at Detroit Boat Club. So we're going to get pledges out, and we'll take care of all that next couple of weeks and give you some information, as we pointed out in the information with Dave. Up next is Ryan Seago talking a little bit about the California Dreamin Classic, and we'll be back with him in just a second. Welcome back. We're getting a chance to talk to Ryan Seago, Grosse Pointe North 2014 graduate who was kind of tearing up the West Coast in the California Dreamin Series. You just won the third leg of the series at St. Francis in San Francisco Bay. Coming up this weekend, going back to Long Beach, we're going to talk all about the California Dreamin Series. But first of all, congratulations on such a successful campaign early here in the 2024 sailing season.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I have one more event to win the series, currently in second place. So hopefully pull it off this weekend.
Talk a little bit about the series. I know you grew up sailing and, we kind of learned your bones, as it were, at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. You're a member of Bayview. And so you've had a lot of Lake St. Clair experience, to say the least. And now you're out there on the West Coast doing pretty well. This is an interesting series, the California Dreamin Series, because you're really in different kind of boats. You're in some J22s, You're in a Governor Cup or Governor, get it right. Governor Cup 21.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure. Maybe you can explain what that is. And then obviously you're going to do the big boats come this weekend. So maybe explain a little bit about the series.
Yeah, it's just a four-part series in California, 4 events over 2.5 months. Like you said, J22s for 2 of the events. We were in the Gov Cup 21s, which were the old version of the Balboa Gov Cup 22s they have now.
Okay.
So they're a little bit older, a little slower, but they were nice boats. And then we're going to the big Cali 37s with 7 people this weekend. So
okay, all of this is match racing, which is a little bit different. And for those of not real familiar with California or even the West Coast, lots of downhill sailing, downwind sailing. But this is much more traditional in its event in terms of match cups. So pretty much, if you're watching a race in Long Beach, you probably wouldn't know if you were in Miami or Newport. Is that fair?
Yep.
How did you get hooked up with the West Coast? I mean, how did you get hooked up with this particular match race in the series?
Yeah, so there's not much match race in the U.S. in the winter, other than California. So through U.S. Sailing, you had to apply for one of the 8 spots to do the series, and then this year our team got into the Grand Slam in August, which is the grade 2 match races in Oak Cliff, Chicago Yacht Club, and Bayview. So we're just trying to get a lot of reps in and a lot of practice before hopefully a good summer.
You started at Balboa, and then you ended up in well, you actually started in San Diego, then you went to Balboa, and obviously San Francisco Bay. Those are 3 different venues, to say the least. Maybe
Yep.
talk about those 3 venues and how they differ, and maybe what they offer as challenges.
Yeah, but so at San Diego Harbor in late January, like forecast, there wasn't much wind. There was a lot of powerboat chop and 4 knots of breeze the whole weekend. So that was pretty tough. We actually that was our worst event. Got 4th or 5th, and then Balboa in February was more of the same, just 5-6 knots of breeze and swell, and sailing the Gulf Cup 21s were kind of tricky boats for us. And then over the last 2 weekends ago in St. Francis, it was actually great weather, just a nice 15-knot sea breeze coming under the bridge, and it was beautiful weather. And actually, that was our best event. But in Long Beach, we should expect some good breeze this time of year. So we're looking forward to that.
We should also mention that you had some Michigan crew aboard some of those boats.
Yeah. Some of my Michigan sailing team members, Will Sear, lives in San Diego, and then some of our local guys, Blake Stackpool and Dominic Dulac from Grosse Pointe, and then some other people filling in just from California who could sail with us. So we're really grateful for that, though. I think it's a shout out Nicole Brout, great match racer from San Francisco, let me have a few of her crew members. So
I've asked this question before, and I guess I'm asking it as an educated sailing match racer. Does having guys from the same area who maybe understand the way you sail here and grew up help, or is it a kind of a non-point, and you get in the boat and you sail with whatever conditions are in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up around here, I guess usually more lighter breeze, and less waves, obviously less big swell waves. But at this point, I've sailed around the country a bunch of places a lot, so and in college sailing, so I was kind of used to most things. But probably just most conditions I'm comfortable are just lighter air and flat water. I'm sailing the river a lot. So
Before we started, you mentioned that your basic business background is accounting, CPAs, that kind of work from the University of Michigan. I'm assuming you sailed at the University of Michigan. Am I correct?
yes, yeah.
They were just at Crescent with Dave Perry just put a seminar on locally that this past week. We got a little bit of film of that. So University of Michigan sailing program. Tom Eamon, who's a part of the St. Francis Yacht Club, is also a local guy from Portage Lake, and Tom's been on our show. It's does Michigan, the university, get its due as a sailing program nationally?
I'm not sure. I know back when Tom Eamon was there, they were really good. They won numerous titles with Bruce Nelson, and Fortunately, last 30 years we haven't done as well as them, but it seems like University of Michigan sailing program is pretty well known, but not on the same track as the varsity programs. Now, so.
Let me get back to the California series. The match series is sort of a progressive program in that you race the 4 races. The last race will be this coming week in Long Beach with 37s, with Catalina 37s. It leads itself then to an invitation to the thicker match race, which then it goes to, maybe explain the sort of the up the hill run, if you will. Congressional one of as well.
Yeah. So the Congressional Cup is probably the most well-known match race guy in the world, the Cali 37s, and late April every year. So then this California series and some other events allow you to qualify for the Ficker Cup, which is 1 week before the Congressional Cup. And the same boats at Long Beach Yacht Club, the same venue, everything. And then so those 10, 12 teams, the top 3 get the last 3 spots in the Congressional Cup. And then also the Ficker Cup, some of the higher ranking teams in the world who don't qualify also get invited as well. So this year our plan is hopefully if we don't win the California series or qualify through the Grand Slam, our ranking will allow us to be there next April.
What attracts you to match racing?
That's a good question. I think just the intensity is pretty high and it's very technical. Unlike other maybe fleet races where you can lose a few boats or make mistakes, in match racing usually one mistake costs you a race. So just the one-on-one battle and the intensity is pretty high. So I guess that's what attracts to me.
Would it be fair to say that match racing to sailing is maybe like sprints are to track and field?
Yeah, that's a fair analogy. Yeah.
Versus the longer versus running a mile or 2 miles or the 10,000 meters. So the tactics I would think, are not necessarily greater, but certainly you got to think on your feet a lot faster in a match race than you might in other kinds of races, longer races.
Yeah, definitely. And also, another good thing about match racing is when you go to other forms of sailing, you're more comfortable with one-on-one sailing. So, I guess another analogy, like you said, it's pretty quick and intense action. It's like back hundreds of years ago, it's like jousting. It's just like a quick one-on-one battle. I don't know.
Of all your small boat disciplines growing up, what discipline sets you up the best in terms of teaching you for the kind of match racing you're doing?
Team racing. I mean, team racing involves lots of one-on-one little match races during a team race. So I think team racing translates best to match racing. But I mean, all the different disciplines of sailing kind of interlap at some point. But team racing, I would say.
You're obviously the first 3 matches in 21 and 22 foot boats. Now you go to 37. So did the tactics change, or does the courses get bigger? Maybe explain a little bit what happens in as the venues get larger.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Everything changed a little bit. 37s are pretty heavy boats, so everything seems to go a little bit slower. But there's way more teamwork involved with 7 people, and they're kind of older, designed symmetrical boats. So there's lots of different areas where ropes can get tangled, and there's a giant 13-foot pole that's really heavy, and just everything will kind of change. And yeah, I mean the boat's bigger, so the starting line's gonna be bigger. Course is a little bit longer because they're slightly faster than J22s, but like one example is like the dial up in the pre-start in these boats is much longer than small boats because all the momentum, they usually last at least 1 to 2.5 minutes. Where in smaller boats, a dial up maybe lasts like 30 seconds on average. So there's a lot of different strategies in the start. There's and there's also a lot less. You can't circle as much in these boats because they're so heavy,
right,
and don't accelerate as much. So as you see videos like the Congressional Cup, people just kind of waste time along the pier and S-turn, and so yeah, there's different strategies, especially in the start for these heavy boats, I'd say.
I think of a Catalina 37 as being like my cruising boat. I think of it more of a cruising boat than I would a race boat. So I would think that the tactics, I mean, obviously the Catalina 37 isn't an IC 37 or something similar to, the Melgus boat, which it looks like a race boat. These are legitimate, just guys. So I'm assuming different tactics. So do the courses get bigger as well, or the courses the same size?
They're a little bit bigger. Just they try to aim for 18-minute races. So 37s are probably a little bit faster than J22s or Ultimate 20. So the course will be a little bit longer, but not too much longer.
Is 18? You mentioned 18 minutes a couple times. Is that sort of the mark for most match racing?
Yeah, I think in the World Sailing Guidelines they try to aim for 15 to 20-minute races. So
Good.
Depending on it, and then sometimes they try to fit around robin in quickly, so they shorten into 15 minutes, and then sometimes they lengthen it. So on average, 18 minutes, I think.
In a day, how many races in a day? And how many make up a series? So at St. Francis, how many races did you actually pull together?
So for the California Dreamin Series, there's 8 teams, so round robin is 7 races, and for 2 days they've just tried to do 2 round robins for this series, just to keep everyone sailing, and it's more of a training series. So, and I would say in general, match racing, it's usually 7-8 races in a day for round robins, on average. So.
I'm asking the question because if you're watching this, you may not understand what match racing is. And I always have a fun bar conversation. How did the basket get to be 10 feet for basketball? And it was, was Highsmith putting it at the 10-foot beam he had in his barn back in, the late 1900s, and only got to 10 feet because they had a 10-foot beard. How do you get to 90 feet for first base, for baseball? So all these distances, I think, become interesting when you start discussing them. So there's obviously reasons that you come up. What's it take now this coming weekend, 6th and 7th in Long Beach? And where in Long Beach do you race? Do you race in the harbor area where the protected part of it is, where all the big boats are coming in, or do you actually go out in the ocean, out in the ocean?
We go out to the ocean to Belmont Pier, Long Beach. So it's like a 20-30 minute motor.
Yeah.
Outside the ocean, and you turn right and go past a couple oil islands, and then out to the Newport Pier. It's a great venue. Yeah. Then I believe that's where the Olympic in 4 years where the Olympic medal races are going to be too. So
28. Yep, they are. They are.
Yeah. Fortunately, we did the Butler Cup in November at the same Long Beach Yacht Club in the same boats. And that was our first time for a bunch of our baby guys and on those boats, because normally we just match race U20s or sonars or J22s. So yeah, it was a great first training event. So we'll have myself, Dominic, and Blake from Grosse Pointe, and then a couple of my Michigan sailing team members from back in the day, Will Sear and Evelyn. And then we also have one of their local friends from San Diego, David Gates. And then we have Drew Follett, who used to work in Detroit at Quantum. So should be a good team.
Cool. I'm assuming this is a bit of a sabbatical from the employment world that you're involved in sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Well, listen, congratulations on the win at St. Francis. We wish you the best of luck. Hopefully, Bayview will be well represented in the Ficker Cup. And we wanted to mention, I know you're not going to be a part of it, but Bayview is sponsoring the Holly Hansen World Cup Series coming up, I think, May 29th through June 2nd, not mistaken. So we will do a little bit of that information on that race coming up in the next couple of weeks. But Ryan, say hi to all the guys from Crescent and Bayview for us, and have some of that sun in California. Enjoy yourself, and best of luck for sure. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's also nice to see young sailors do well in different venues. Certainly, Ryan's had some real success out on the California Dreaming Series. And especially with a lot of it being Michigan crew. I know there's 2 or 3 guys on board. Dominic Delsick, for one of them, a former junior sailing instructor here at Crescent. So he had some success with that. Dominic's finishing up his degree at Pomona College, so we all got a chance to spend some time together. One of the last things I wanted to mention is that there's a cruising Great Lakes port here in a sort of Mackinac race coming up, and it's more of a destination overnight 5-stop event. You can see put on by the Great Lakes Sailing Club. There's a seminar coming up, and we'll get that information up next week. We just wanted to show you what it is. We think we might be a part of that this year. We'll see. Depends on how summer goes. But we appreciate Dave's and both Ryan's, and want to say good luck. And we'll see you outside next week on Inside Great Lakes Sailing. For all the guys in back, thanks for watching.